Hey everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter. Welcome back. Today I have a very special project for you. I'm actually doing a little guest stint for the first 3 Fridays in December. I'll be over on the Neat and Tangled blog, so I'll be using some of those products, and I thought I would share those projects with you here on my blog as well. So here's a look at the stamp set that I'll be using. This is called the Santa's Ride stamp set, and I'm going to be using the coordinating dies, which I'm holding there as well. And I love how classic these images are, but also how playful they can be. And let me also say that I apologize for my voice if I sound a little congested still. I am getting over what I think may have been the plague. I was the sickest I have been in probably 2 or 3 years. I spent 3 days in bed. I'm feeling much better now, but I still sound terrible. So anyway, you saw me kind of planning out my scene there and then choosing a circle die that would fit around that scene well. And I'm going to use that circle die to cut some Eclipse Art masking paper here. Now you could use some Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo masking paper as well, or you could use some thin typing paper and some removable adhesive to create your circle mask. When I first started this card, I thought I might mask off these images and do kind of maybe like a 1-layer card a la Laura Basson, but I decided in the end that I wanted to use the coordinating dies and add some dimension. So I'm going to be doing that here. And I've started out by mounting my stamps on my MISTI tool. Now, you haven't probably seen me use this before, but this is a great tool for stamp positioning, and how I'm going to use it here is I'm just inking up these in Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I'll be doing some Copic coloring, and I'm just pressing those down onto the cardstock. Now, the cardstock is held in place by that little magnet that you see up in the upper right-hand corner. And I got this tip from Debbie Hughes, that's who it was, and she uses this to kind of re-stamp the images. So you saw me just re-ink them and close the MISTI right over the tool or right over the paper again. This is going to give me a really deep, dark black image with the Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Sometimes with the Memento Tuxedo Black ink, I don't get a really dark image, but stamping it twice gives me that really nice, deep, rich black. Now, the colors that I'm using for my Copic coloring, those will be listed over on my blog and linked over at my blog, as well as in the description at YouTube if I have room for it there. They kind of limit me. So if those aren't listed in the YouTube description, be sure to check over at my blog. And I'm starting with the lightest color, coloring the entire image, and then I brought in some of the medium color. And then the darkest color I added right around the edge. And then I just kind of blended that out with the medium color and then went over it with the light color again. For the little gift here, I really didn't do any blending because it's such a small image. But on the bag of goodies, I did use some blending of the E33, E35, and E79. Now, when I first started, I thought I was only going to use 2 colors. But when I got going on this, I really felt like it needed a little bit more darkness around the edge. So that's when I brought in the E79. So like I said, light color, medium color, I blended out with the light color once again. Then I came back in with the darkest color to darken up the edges. And if it needed blending out, I did it a little bit with that medium marker. So I'm using those 2 darker shades of the brown markers to color the top of that sleigh as well. And once I got my images colored in, I went ahead and separated the coordinating dies using my die snips. And I'll position them over the images and hold them in place with a little bit of Post-it tape. Now I kind of sped through that Copic coloring because it is really basic Copic coloring. I'm not doing anything special, but I did want to leave it in there in case you were interested in how I was doing it. And once I get these dies all positioned over the images, I'm going to go ahead and run them through my Big Shot machine and cut them out. Now, I thought it would be fun to take the card front and add kind of a little stitch detail, and I knew I wanted to cut it down to about 3.5 inches. So what I'm doing is taking my card front, I'm measuring over 3.5 inches here, and then I'm going to take this border die, it's from Pretty Pink Posh. I'm going to line it up with my grid mat along that 3.5 inch marker there and put the cutting edge along that 3.5 inch marker. I'll hold it in tape with a little bit of, or in place with a little bit of frog tape there. You could also use the Post-it tape. And once I get it lined up nice and straight, I'll go ahead and run that through my die cut machine as well. And that gives me a really nice card front with a stitch detail along the edge. Now, I created this mask earlier, and in order to position it onto my card front and get it just right, I'm going to start out by positioning the positive part of the mask, so that circle part. And then I took the outline mask or the negative portion and put that around where the circle was. That helped me see to make sure that I got that mask positioned just where I wanted it, because if I took this whole piece and just put it onto the card front, I couldn't see exactly where my circle was landing. So once I got that negative space position, I went ahead and pulled up that circle piece and then went ahead and blended some pigment ink onto this surface. Once I got that pigment ink all blended, I'm going to use this stencil from My Favorite Things and a little bit of white embossing paste from Wendy Vecchi, and I'm just going to smear it over. Now, I am going to put this on rather thick because I want this to be quite dimensional, but if you wanted to kind of scrape the edge and get all the last bit off, you can kind of do that, but you're going to see me leave a little bit extra on the stencil because I'm getting this nice and thick. But it's okay, I have plenty of embossing paste. So once I get that kind of smoothed out nice and thick, it's kind of like spreading frosting, which I think is so much fun, but quite honestly, I don't bake very often at all because I think it's messy. So I don't do it very much. So once I get that spread on there, I'm going to remove the stencil and then I'm going to sprinkle all over this embossing paste while it's wet. I'm using some Prisma glitter. This is just going to add a little shimmer and shine to that snow that I've created in the background. And of course, I went ahead and washed off my stencil and my little scraper tool. Can't remember, palette knife right away. Once that dried, I went ahead and used a dry paintbrush to kind of dust off the extra glitter that had been left on the surface. And I'm going to use that Swiffer cloth to kind of clean up my area as well. I've added some dimensional adhesive to the back of all of these pieces. So I actually added 3 layers to the sleigh, 2 layers to the present, and then 1 layer to the little bag of goodies. Now, if you wanted to make this a one-dimensional card, you could totally do that with masking. And what you would do is you would stamp your sleigh first, so whatever's in the foreground first, and then you would mask that, then stamp your present, mask that, and then stamp your bag of goodies. Once I got all of those pieces in place, I went ahead and went over the top of that sleigh with a little bit of the gold Wink of Stella, and now I am stamping and embossing my sentiment, which is the Believe sentiment, and I am using the Wow metallic platinum sparkle or something along those lines embossing powder. It's platinum. It's not silver. It doesn't have that really brightness that silver has. It's kind of got more of a warm tone to it. And I decided I wanted a little bit along the edge of my card front. So I kind of tapped the Versamark pad along there and added a little bit along that card front, but I decided that it wasn't quite enough. So I'm just taking my Versamark pad now and smushing it right onto a scrap piece of Nina Solar white cardstock and then adding that platinum sparkle embossing powder and heating that as well. And that gave me a little strip of glitter cardstock that perfectly coordinates with the greeting that I've created to put along the side of this card front. And I'm just using a little tape runner adhesive to add it to this kind of candy cane striped pattern paper, which is from a Simple Stories pattern paper pad. And then I'm going to use a little Be Creative tape to mount that onto the back part of my card front. The reason I'm using the Be Creative tape here is because that embossing powder has a little bit of glitter and a little bit of slickness to it, and I really needed a good, firm, strong adhesive to make sure that that stayed in place. Now, to position my sentiment on here, because it's vellum, I'm using a little bit of this Cool Tack clear foam mounting tape. And really, when you get this on the back, that sentiment totally disguises that. So if you were using a white foam tape there, you would totally see it, but that clear Cool Tack stuff, fabulous. Now I'm going to just embellish my sleigh here, and I'm just using a few little jingle bells from Pretty Pink Posh. I'm threading them onto some gold DMC thread here. It's some of my favorite accents to add to the front of a card. And then I'm going to use some of this boxwood twine and a glue dot and kind of create a little, I don't know, arrangement of greenery and jingle bells here to go on the back of my sleigh. And I'm just using that glue dot. I kind of pushed it onto the glue dot, and then I kind of moved it around because I wasn't sure if I wanted it on the back of the sleigh at first or if I wanted it near the sentiment. I finally settled on the back of the sleigh, and then I just removed the backer from that glue dot and put it onto the back of the sleigh with that glue dot. Now for my card base, I am using the wood grain embossed craft cardstock. This is from the Essentials by Ellen line, and I just love it for holiday cards. It's cut to 4¼ by 11 and then scored at 5½ to create a top folding A2 size card. And guess what? I am stamping a sentiment on the inside of my card. I hardly ever do this, but I loved the way the magic in that sentiment tied in with the believe on the front of the card, so I thought it was perfect. And to mount my card front to my card base, I am going to add a layer of fun foam right behind it. I'm using the Be Creative tape on both sides of the fun foam, and I'll remove the backer from one side, attach it to my card front, and then I can just remove the backer from the other side and attach it to my card base there. And I'm just using my work surface to kind of make sure that that's all lined up and positioned on there nice and straight. So I thought this needed a little bit more sparkle, so I'm going to go over some of these images, some of the presents, and then the sleigh with my clear Wink of Stella glitter brush marker here, and that's going to complete my card for today. So be sure you go on over to my blog where I will have more still shots as well as links to all the products used in this project. I will have the featured supplies listed in the description at YouTube. And don't forget to stop by the Neat and Tangled blog this month in December. I will be there for the first 3 Fridays in this month of December. Thanks for stopping by today. I really hope you enjoyed this project. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. And please don't get the plague that I got. Stay well. Bye-bye, guys.